During that time, Blockbuster was worth $6 billion. Netflix was bleeding money.
Losing.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And they went to Blockbuster and they said, buy us for $50 million.
Wow, and they didn't?
And Blockbuster said no.
Wow.
For $50 million.
Yeah.
Today, they're worth $300 billion.
But again, I think we see some of those stories again and again. I mean, look, we see the same thing with, the record labels could have created iTunes. They could have created Spotify.
Yes.
They could have created Tidal. They could have created all of those things.
Yes.
They had the money. They had all the rights.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the System. I'm your host, Leo Climaco. Today's guest, I had to write an intro because he's such a special person. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting with Eric Galen, a Miami-based attorney, entrepreneur, and deal maker who spent over 25 years working at the highest level of entertainment, technology, and business. He's represented names like will.i.am, Kanye West, Johnny Depp, and Gwyneth Paltrow. He's done deals with Microsoft, Universal Music, and TikTok. And right now, he's the COO of RFLXT, an AI platform creating digital doubles for creators, literally building the future of how we interact with content. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hold on, I got to stop you because I think it's outdated. I don't know where you guys got that.
Please.
I'm not currently at Reflect.
Okay, awesome. Where are you currently? Let's start that off right there.
Yeah, General Counsel of Athena, which is a big stablecoin project.
Okay, so correction, no longer at RXFL.
Reflect. Yeah. That
There
was
we
a
go.
Cardano company. So I spent a couple of years, when I moved to Miami, I was working with Mayor Suarez, and he introduced me to a law firm that he was working with.
Okay.
They recruited me to start the Innovation Technology Practice Group at the firm, which I did back in 21. I was there for a couple of years and then left to join this Cardano company, this Web3 company,
Okay.
and ran that for a couple of years. It was Charles Hoskinson and Cardano. And then now I'm general counsel at Athena Foundation, which is a big, multi-billion-dollar stablecoin project.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to know about your background. Tell me about your upbringing.
My upbringing. So I grew up in the Bay Area,
Okay.
East of San Francisco. And there's something really interesting, having on my mom's side of the family, I'm a seventh generation native Californian.
Okay.
So the move to Miami was a big move. But I think the thing that always drew people to California, it's always had this, when you think about California and you think about, particularly in the last century, whether it's Apple or Microsoft or Google or, these massive
Tesla.
world-changing, Tesla, any of these companies were all in this very small sliver of land on the west coast of the States.
Yeah. Palo Alto, right?
Yeah, Palo Alto, but even south, all the way from, all the way up to Seattle, but it's all on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And I think that there is this, this cultural genetic history of people going west to find gold, and that still exists, right?
The gold rush, yep.
Gold rush. That gold rush mentality, I think, still really exists there. But I think that now we're seeing it in Miami, right? I think a lot of people that
I agree.
That, like myself, that kind of burned out. I think California almost got, it was, I think, drinking its own Kool-Aid for too long, right?
Yeah.
So, and just isn't the state, it's not now the state that gave rise to these incredible entrepreneurs and visionaries. So I think that culture there has changed a bit. And Miami right now, there's just so much wealth, there's so much kind of mental power coming to and experience coming to Miami now that it feels more like a gold rush town.
I agree. I share that. I'm from New York originally, was there 25 years. And it feels like the energy left New York. It got sucked out,
Yeah.
and it's all down here in South Florida.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing that drove people out of New York, drove them out of California. So
100%.
I think we're seeing an incredible amount of energy here. And look, I've spent the last 25 years, one of the guys I used to work with said, we represent lottery winners. I was
Okay.
like, what do you mean? Like not literal lottery
Yeah,
winners,
I understand.
lottery winners in terms of, whether they were artists, whether they were founders.
The golden ticket in life.
People that got the golden ticket. Not to say they didn't work for it.
Right.
But, these are the lottery winners, right? And whether they're athletes or artists or entrepreneurs, these are people that have achieved, outlier status. And it's been really interesting working closely with them. And, as a lawyer, you see all the garbage. You see all the stuff that doesn't get posted. You see all the behind the scenes stuff. I'm the one that people call at 2 a.m. and say, "Oh my God, you're never going to believe what happened. No one can know about this, but X, Y, and Z." And it's interesting. The more that you work with outliers, the more you realize, one, they have many of the same fundamental problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
In terms of self and self-image and self-worth and interpersonal relationships,
Anxiety
and all the rest of it.
and yep.
Anxiety and everything else, and that they have the same faults that everybody else has, and you also start to see a lot of pattern recognition with founders, with some of these outliers. I've worked with so many people, not just the ones like the names that you mentioned that everybody knows were successful, but I've worked with a lot of people that could have had success and didn't. And seen a lot of those patterns of what happened, what went wrong, how did it go sideways. People that seem to have everything, right? Whether it's a founder that has the connections, has a great idea, has the funding, and just can't get out of their own way. What
are those patterns?
I think, ego, man. Ego, and I think when people think about ego, they often think about narcissism.
Okay.
Right? But we all have egos. We're
course.
not all narcissists, but we all have egos.
And we need it sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the ego, if you think about the ego, is that voice that's always inside you, right? That's judging, might be judging you, might be judging other people.
Right.
That part of you that is always there, and it's not actually you. Like if you, plenty of podcasts with people talking about, I don't know, look at podcasts about people doing ayahuasca or anything else where there's ego death.
Right.
And I experienced that once.
Same.
I did kind of an unintended hero dose of mushrooms in Palm Springs and didn't know who I was, didn't know how old I was, didn't know my name, didn't know where I lived. I mean, it was not planned.
Unintended meaning that you didn't know how much you were taking?
No. I thought it was just, this shaman gave me some and I said, oh, this is going to be nice and the lights are going to look pretty. And
Got it.
And it ended up being a 10-hour long
journey.
But it was worthwhile. I wouldn't say it was fun, but it was worthwhile. It was the only thing I'd say was an actual spiritual experience I've had.
Yeah.
And didn't see God. God didn't talk to me, not like that. But in terms of kind of getting out of your own body to some extent, and there is a part of you that is not that voice, that's not the judging, that's not the who you are and how much money you have and what do you do, what do you look like and what are you wearing, what's your social media, none of that. There's a part of you that has nothing to do with any of that. I think that's really you.
Right.
All the other shit is programming, what you learned and picked up growing up and what you're seeing online and all of the things that program you. And it's the biggest pattern I've seen, man, is people just either not getting out of their own way, because of their ego won't let them get out of the way, because of pride, because of jealousy, because of,
bullshit.
Yeah, not being humble, just bullshit. Things that they absolutely could avoid, that are not things that other people or the world is imposing on them. They're things that are within their control.
That'd be a great book for you to write.
Yeah, I've thought about that. I mean,
It'd be a really good book.
Because it's honestly shocking, and I used to see it. Now I just see it incredibly clearly. But it's like watching someone that you care about. Because when I work with people, I genuinely do care about them. Like if I'm working with you, I want you to win.
Right.
Right? I want you to do well. It's in my nature. My dad's a retired doctor and surgeon. Like it's just like help other people. So if I'm working with someone, I really want them to win. And there have been some people that I've spent a lot of time and energy helping develop or helping. As a lawyer, you end up sometimes you're a psychologist, you're a consigliere, you're a fixer. You end up doing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And it's like watching someone that you care about, in a raft, heading down a river toward a massive waterfall that's just going to kill them, and screaming at them, you're heading towards a waterfall, and they don't believe you. and they keep going, and you're watching it happen. It's like in slow motion. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion.
Right.
So it's incredibly frustrating when it's happening, when you're someone like myself that's trying to help someone get to where they want to go, to watch themselves, to watch them self-sabotage or not get out of their own way.
Do you intervene? Do you?
Oh, I try.
What's your role in that situation?
I try to intervene. I try to intervene. Sometimes intervening, I mean, once in a while, intervening actually works, but it's a minority of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, what people are dealing with is so kind of deep-seated. It's so foundational.
Yeah.
It's so subconscious.
Some
Most
trauma.
people don't even know.
Yeah, subconscious.
They're
rooted.
not consciously aware that they're doing it. And this is a lot of the unconscious programming that we all have. And so once in a while, 10% of the time it works and breaks through. Sometimes, I mean, I've been fired by clients for showing them the truth, telling them where this thing is heading, getting fired because they didn't like what I was telling them,
Right.
and then watching them, go off the waterfall and the business dies or whatever else. So
Wow.
it's and I told you so isn't worth much.
No,
it
it's
doesn't.
not. It's not. Someone's life is ruined.
Yeah, someone's life and their business is ruined or dreams are ruined or whatever else. And so I saw that a lot. And it's a lot of the time that lately I've been thinking about is like, is there a better way to get through to people, right? As a coach, as a lawyer, as consigliere, as a friend, is there a better way to get through to people? And how do you break through the ego and the programming and everything else to try to
Bring their guard
them
down.
to see something that they're not seeing?
Right.
And it's really hard for us to see ourselves from our own vantage point, right? I mean, other people, I'm sure you've experienced that, right?
Of course.
Like, other people will see what you're doing wrong more easily than you do,
100%.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
So as a friend, if you're seeing your spouse do it, if you're seeing a client do it, like how do you really get through to them? And it's really tough. And to some extent, it almost reminds me of people that go to, what do they say? People that are addicts, they say admitting that you have a problem is the first step.
Yeah. Step one.
If you can't admit you have a problem, like rehab doesn't want you.
Correct.
Because you're not going to do any of the work.
Right.
It's not going to be helpful.
Right. You have to want the change.
You got to want the change. And I think I saw that a lot. I worked with influencers really early on, actually, back in probably 2012. So Vine was big, if you remember Vine.
Yeah.
Instagram
That
was
Jake
kind
Paul.
of
Jake Paul's big online
yeah,
back then.
Jake Paul, Shawn Mendes.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids that got really big on Vine, and then a lot of them transitioned to Instagram as that in the mid 2010s started kind of coming up. And I worked early on. I was working at a law firm that represented the Will.i.ams and the Gwyneth Paltrow, like big traditional celebrities.
Got it.
And in the beginning, what might seem crazy now is that Hollywood didn't want influencers. They wrote them off. I mean, they thought they were a joke. If you went to CAA or William Morris or any of the big agencies, any of the big law firms, they were like, who is this teenager on this app? Like, why does this matter?
Right.
They're not on TV. They're not on the Grammys. Why does this matter?
Right. They couldn't see it.
No, and I went to a convention. These two kids that I met that were on Vine and they were in high school, and I went to a convention. Their parents said, "Hey, we think we need a lawyer. Can you come down and meet us?" I went to San Diego. And it was like the old videos. If you've seen the old videos of like the Beatles showing up, or like if Justin Bieber showed up. I mean, it was fucking. Can I swear?
Of course.
Screaming fans, like all teenage girls losing their minds,
Who are these
losing
boys?
their minds. These two kids named Jack and Jack. They were.
I know Jack and Jack.
Yeah.
My kids watch Jack and Jack.
Oh, okay, so I developed Jack and Jack. So
That's
I met
awesome.
them when they were in high school, and they went to, oh man, I'm forgetting the name, but it was one of the early, forgetting the name of the kid that started it, but it was one of the early cons, where they would, it wasn't VidCon, it was, I'm blanking, but they were really low production value. Like they would just show up, they'd rent a room at a hotel and tell people they were going to be there and a bunch of influencers. It wouldn't even really be a show. It was just kind of almost like a big meet and greet.
Yeah.
And I saw just lines of people screaming and I was like, this is market. Like coming from the startup world. So I was one of the only people in LA that was doing startups and entertainment. Most people were either entertainment or they were tech, and they didn't kind of cross-train, especially lawyers, managers, people like that.
What made you go that route?
Because, I think I always was, I was a science, I did pre-med undergrad. Like, I've always kind of had one foot in like philosophy and law and the other foot in science and medicine and tech and things like that. It's just always interested me. And I think there's a lot to be gained by cross-training. I mean, if you look at all of the innovation in music came from outside music over the last 30 years, right? It came from Steve Jobs reinventing distribution because he said, hey, this is all going to go digital.
iPod.
Yeah, said, I'm going to make a device, record labels, would you please make iTunes? And they were too short-sighted, too egotistical, whatever else to do it themselves.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to go do it. And he went and did it, made all the money. And we've seen that time and time again. We saw that with, the two biggest changes to entertainment and music have been social media and distribution, right? Digital distribution and social media. So Netflix, iTunes, Instagram. Entertainment industry was not behind any of them. Like, did not pioneer any of them, and most of the time fought them.
Do they regret it today?
I don't know if they have the presence of mind to regret it. There's such kind of a combination of just hubris and short-sighted. It's really been. It was always difficult, and I think there are younger people now in entertainment that grew up with more digital, that are more open-minded. But I think traditionally, and it's just kind of the vibe of Hollywood in the first place. It's very much a city on the hill with a big moat around it. So like if you're trying to work in the industry, they don't want you. It's a very exclusive by design industry.
Right.
Because I do think that a lot of the people that are in the industry, I think it also explains why so many people that get into the industry end up kind of behaving like this, is that it's not a meritocracy. It's not like the best singer wins.
Right.
Oftentimes it's some of the worst singers win, right?
The most marketable one, right?
Right. So it's very much an industry built on preserving your reputation and your status. It's not really on the product, and it's not really on merit. And so you have a lot of people in entertainment who are in the positions they're in, not because they necessarily worked harder or are more talented or anything else, but it's because they knew the right person. They were best friends with this big artist when they came up, so now they're a massive manager. And I think on some level, a lot of them understand that, if not for this stroke of luck, I wouldn't be here necessarily. And it doesn't mean that there aren't some geniuses in entertainment. There are, right? But there's kind of a general atmosphere in the industry, I think, of people being fearful. Which also explains, I think, why so many people in entertainment don't speak out. Like, there's a very much, if there's a cause that's popular, you support the cause.
Right.
If there, you don't go against the grain, because if you go against the grain, you might be excluded, you might not get a client, and there's not much defensibility in your business, because at the end of the day, it doesn't, it's like being a manager, being an agent. There's no licensing, there's no education for that. Like, anybody really can do it. So kind of being at the top of the industry depends in large part on being in the right room and being nice to the right people. And it's very much about status preservation. Yeah. Right? So I think because of that, and that explains, I think, some of the lack of innovation, is also that people are afraid to step out of line. People are afraid to, I think
they want to be in the club.
They want to be in the club, and they want to believe that the club is the most important thing to be in, because that also supports everybody else's kind of position and everything else, right? So I think there's often this, that feeling within those industries, and I think there are other industries as well, but tech I always found to be at least more based on merit, right? If you could be a Mark Zuckerberg and create something totally outside the system and win, right? And I think that happens once in a while in music. You'll see an independent artist that will kind of get a lot of the way themselves and then get signed and then get picked up and so on and so forth. But I think that there's a sense, I think, at least in tech, I think on the corporate side less so, but certainly on the engineering side, you're either a good engineer or you're not. Right. And it's objectively verifiable. And it matters.
It's clear, yes.
It's clear.
Yeah.
If you're a great AI engineer today, you're getting hired, right? It's not the same in music. You could be, you could walk down the street. You could go to Nashville and go to any bar and see some shockingly talented musicians that are incredibly, and they're scraping a living together, right? So being good and being able to actually monetize that are very much separated in a lot of entertainment. Whereas I think in tech, there's a bit more of a sense of, and I just saw that on the ground. I remember going to a meeting one day, probably in the early 2010s, and I went to one meeting at Universal Music, which one of the biggest music labels, and then I went to another meeting at Google later that day, and the contrast, I was like,
old world,
you can see where
new
all
world.
the new money is. All the innovation, all the money, all the power was really at Google.
Of course.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And by the way, we've seen the same thing with, look at Netflix, right? I mean, I remember when Netflix was just, going online to a website, ordering a movie, the movie came to your mail, and you returned the DVD later.
Yeah.
They had the foresight, which Blockbuster didn't. Blockbuster was killing them at that point.
Yeah.
They said, look, bandwidth is going to keep increasing. We should skate to where the puck is going, not where it is. Let's build digital distribution, start doing those deals, start getting those rights. And look at Netflix today. Netflix is buying studios. Netflix is more powerful than most of the studios in the world now.
As a podcaster, I needed a place to share my voice and hear other stories. That's how Forge Studios was born. A place created not just for me, but for everyone searching for something more. An environment where as soon as you walk in, you feel the energy and you feel welcomed. Where being seen and heard is part of the experience. A place for entrepreneurs to share their journey, for creators to bring ideas to life, for businesses to grow authentically. A space that values mental health, encourages real conversations, and supports those who turns ideas into impact. Here at the Forge Studios, creativity, culture, and purpose aligns and comes together to help you create something greater. A place where we leave the filters behind and we start expressing ourselves for real. The Forge Studio. Your journey starts here. Your impact starts now.
To your point, during that time, Blockbuster was worth $6 billion. Netflix was bleeding money.
Losing.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And they went to Blockbuster and they said, buy us for $50 million.
Wow, and they didn't?
And Blockbuster said no.
Wow.
For $50 million.
Yeah.
Today, they're worth $300 billion.
It's insane,
It's
isn't it?
insane.
It's insane.
It's insane.
It's really, what is that, like a 3,000x?
It's
Something
crazy.
Like that? I mean, but again, I think we see some of those stories again and again. I mean, look, we see the same thing with, the record labels could have created iTunes. They could have created Spotify.
Yes.
They could have created Tidal. They could have created all of those things.
Yes.
They had the money. They had all the rights.
They fought it with Napster.
They sued.
They went to battle with it. They should have bought it and recreated it.
Right. Yeah, they sued. That was their answer to everything, was sue people.
Yeah.
So that hasn't really got them where they want to go, and unfortunately makes them, even as a lawyer working with a lot of media startups in LA, I would tell people, look, legally, they'd say, look, we want to create this distribution platform. I go, okay, legally, are you supposed to get the licenses? Yes. As a business person, no. Just build it first, get some traction. Better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's what YouTube and a lot of others did. I mean, that became the model, was like, no, don't try to play by the rules. They won't help you.
Right.
So just go build, first get traction, get eyeballs, get demand, and then go negotiate the deals.
Yeah.
Because it was so expensive and time consuming to try to do it the right way that nobody did it. And still to this day, nobody really does it.
Okay, so now 90s, 2000s, we had Hollywood controlling all the power, right?
Yeah.
Then came in the 2000s, came in technology, the iPhone. Now we have social media. What is social media's power today, in your opinion, for an independent artist to really market themselves and really put themselves out there versus going the traditional way through the record label?
I mean, I think it's massive. I think to some extent, if you want traditional success, almost think about record labels like VCs, right? If you want to end up being a $1 trillion company,
right,
you're probably going to need VC funding at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't know this, don't quote me, but I mean, I can't think of, a Tesla, a Google, any of these companies that didn't get outside funding, that just did it all the way themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
No, it's impossible.
So I think to a large extent, it's the same thing right now. Not because you couldn't do it with music, because the difference with music and something like tech is you don't, if your marketing is built into your product enough, other than getting videos made and things like that, you need a little bit of money, but it's not super capital intensive. You don't need to go raise $100 million to be an artist.
Right.
And
what's an ideal number
for an artist?
Yeah.
It really depends on, I mean, you're going to need millions if you really want to get big. You're going to need, and it's really all comes down to marketing. You don't need money to create. It's like, once you've got this set up, how much does it cost you to create this? Very little.
Yeah.
You could do it all day long.
Yeah.
You don't need to go do a deal with Netflix to say, I want to do a podcast.
Correct.
Right? Same thing with being an independent artist. Same thing with being, an early stage entrepreneur. Like, you can go a long way yourself. And in fact, that's what they now want. I think record labels now, they're not developing artists. Studios are not developing talent. They're like waiting to see who can develop their own heat. And then saying, okay, now that you've shown that you have heat, now we'll sign you.
We'll give you rocket fuel.
Yeah, it's no different than like Andreessen Horowitz saying, your app's doing this in the app store, and you've got it this far. We'll give you rocket fuel.
Right.
So I think that's how the
It
entertainment.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's how the entertainment industry is today. And I think, to some extent, look, there are some great things that social media has brought us. Distribution and awareness is one, right? If you were an artist 30 years ago, you could not, there's no way to get mass connection and appeal without TV or radio.
Right.
That's it. Like,
Right.
and they wouldn't let you in. Today, you can build a huge following on social media totally outside the system.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Jack and Jack, who I worked with, were high schoolers in Nebraska. No connections to entertainment. They built a massive following. We monetized it. We did it outside the system for a long time.
Who do I think it was? I think it was this rapper currently in jail, Drake's friend. I forgot his name. But I think he began his career on SoundCloud.
Yeah,
just putting
that makes
songs
sense.
out on SoundCloud and got recognized.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think there are a lot of stories like that. I mean, even artists like The Weeknd, right? The Weeknd had kind of a cult following, very much had been doing his own thing in Canada, did have a following, but wasn't a worldwide sensation.
Yeah.
And to your point, he ended up going into the system, right? So there was one song. Tell me, do you know much of The Weeknd's
I
music?
do. I like him a lot.
What's the one song that made him a household name? There was one turning point, one inflection point that made not just the people that kind of knew him in his own circle, but everybody knew him.
Was it the one, Save the Dance?
No, so he went to, so think about this. So basically The Weeknd goes to, says, he's signed to a label. I want to be huge. I know that I'm successful, but I want to be worldwide. I want to be a pop star. And they put him together with probably the winningest producer-writer, certainly of modern times.
Talking about Kanye?
No. Max Martin.
Okay.
The Swedes. The Swedes have it. If you've never watched, there's a on Netflix, there's an episode, I think it's called Stockholm Syndrome, of like a 6-part kind of miniseries on music. If you're interested in this, watch Stockholm Syndrome, because Swedish producer-writers are like the kings of pop.
Really?
And there's nothing objectively that would make that make sense. And if you watch the story, like, you know what I mean? It's like, why was Brazil a soccer powerhouse? Like, why there at that time, right? So Max Martin is
I'm Brazilian, by the way, so it's a good analogy.
So Max Martin is this Swedish songwriter. They take The Weeknd to him, and Max is like, who's your who's your biggest influence? He's like, Michael Jackson.
I was going to
and
say
you can
that,
hear
MJ.
it.
Yeah, 100%. You can see it.
You can see it and you can
Yeah,
hear it,
yeah, yeah.
right? So he goes, so Max basically is like, I'm going to make a Michael Jackson song for you. And they made Can't Feel My Face. And if you think about Can't Feel My Face, it's a Michael Jackson. Like, you could hear Michael Jackson singing
Yes.
it. That one song went like catapulted him.
Feel my face.
It's full on mainstream pop hit at every
It's
club.
a drug song, too.
Yeah, it's about drugs. It's about coke.
Yes.
Right? So he writes the song about drugs, total Michael Jackson pop song, and suddenly everybody knows who The Weeknd is. That was like the inflection point.
Yeah.
And then after that, you know, you had him collaborating with other people, but like those inflection points for people that really want that level of success. And like if you're a startup, you know, that could be getting distributed. If you do consumer products and you get picked up by Target, it's
Right.
the same kind of inflection point. It's like it's going to scale you.
Yeah.
And so I always, you know, when I approached working with, that's where I think the cross training helps, because you learn things working with tech founders that are applicable in music and vice versa, right? So I treated Jack and Jack like a tech startup. I was like, we don't need to go right now for VC, but we just need to build our thing. We need to keep building the audience. We need to keep scaling. I would A/B test their singles. So like we would record 5 songs, and then we would put up for 30 minutes. They would tweet, help us pick our next song. No one was doing this. Literally no one in music was doing this.
Wow.
They would tweet that, and there would be a site with just a 15-second streaming clip of all 5 songs,
Okay.
and they would vote. And every time I'd be like, what did you think the single should be? And they'd be like, this one. I'm like, it's this one. And doing A/B testing before releasing music and saying, we're going to invest in the video, we're going to invest in promoting this, doing that A/B testing is important. That's a tech thing. That's not a music thing.
What gave you that foresight? Was it
Working in tech. Because I was like, well, what would you do if this was a product?
Right.
If this was an app, what would you
Because
do?
tech A/B test everything.
They A/B test everything.
Everything.
Music, they didn't even know what A/B testing was.
Yeah.
Like I would go to meetings. They were like, people didn't cross-train. People in music did music, and
Makes sense.
people in tech, you know, so people in tech were more scientific with it. You know, they'd be like, we have the data. Let's look at the data. And it was amazing to me where we would do this, and it would be, we had 2 gold records with no record label, no publisher, like, you know,
That's
number 1 on
incredible.
iTunes with no traditional music, because we treated it like a startup.
Wow.
And we kept all the money. They made a ton of money. They started touring the world. And I would go to people in the traditional music. I would like clients of mine that were music producers and things like that. And I'd say, you know, we just did this. You should do this for your next album. Like you're producing whatever. You're producing Aerosmith's next album. You should do this for the next album. And I would walk them through the thinking and take them through it and be like, you don't waste money on the wrong thing. You have a much higher chance of success. It's just the way that like tech would do it. And I'd get done for 30 minutes. I would talk to them about this, and they'd leave and be like, you know who we should do? We should talk to this A&R guy at the label and see what he thinks this single should be. It was like, guys, I kept bringing it to you. That was the problem in entertainment, is that even when you showed them the gold, they didn't recognize it. And they were, I think, so ingrained.
Too stuck in their own ways.
Too stuck in their own ways.
Yeah.
And there were too many, again, that's ego, right? It's the
course.
belief that like,
I know better.
yeah, that I know better, right? But entertainment is filled with those examples of, you know, Maroon 5 got rejected I don't know how many times. I mean, there's so many stories of artists that just kept failing and failing and failing, and people didn't see the potential, people didn't see X, Y, and Z. Because admitting that, if you're an executive, it means admitting that you don't actually know. Like, you're not a kingmaker because you can tell what's good. Because most of the time you can't. Like Seinfeld, right? Seinfeld's one of the most successful TV shows of all
About
time.
nothing.
Of all time.
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld keeps the letter that he got after it was the first or second pilot when they canceled it. They were like, no one's going to like this. This was an executive whose job is supposed to be knowing what people like.
Right.
And it's, you know, this is filled with that. And look, it happens in tech. People are fallible.
Of course.
I think the problem is when people forget that they're fallible, right? Being fallible, we can all admit that we're fallible.
Yeah.
And I've said that to people. People ask me what they think, and I'll go, look, I don't see it, but I'm also not really your audience. Like if you're, I don't know, if you're Ice Spice, I get that you're successful, but I don't think I would have said that you would be successful because I'm not really in your audience. So what do I know, right? If
They blew up from one song.
I mean, she got huge, and as a musician and as someone that's worked with people, I looked at it again. All respect for the success she's had, but I looked at it and I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get what here is compelling, right?
Yeah.
Because if someone had brought that to me, I would have been like, well, I don't really see the look. I don't really see the music. Like I'm not. There's nothing really that unusual. Like what is? Why would this work? And sometimes things just do, and sometimes people fall ass backwards into it.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I've been thinking a lot about. And I was thinking about it today, in fact. I was thinking about it today. I get these ideas, I'll be at the gym, and I'll start writing a note down, because I'll be like, I gotta think more about that. Because the idea, someone posted something about, it was a post on Instagram talking about, we love the hero stories, right? We love the story where I think it was about Travis Scott. And they're like, 15-year-old Travis Scott texted, Travis Scott's going to be somebody one day. Like he had a grand vision. He knew he was going to do this. And then look at it, he did it. Because we love to think that if we just believe enough, it'll happen.
It can happen, yeah.
More often than not, no one has a grand vision. Mark Zuckerberg, you know, when he created Facebook, was just doing something bored one night and spiteful of a girl that wasn't going out with him. There was no grand. He now will say, oh, I had the dream of connecting the world. He didn't have the dream of connecting the world. They fell ass backwards into it.
I agree with you.
And that happened with Walmart. It happened with Twitter. It happened with Instagram. It happened with YouTube. I mean, some of the most successful companies were kind of accidental. They never had the vision. They certainly never had the vision to create what they ended up creating.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important for entrepreneurs and people in business, because a lot of people, I've thought about that. I've been like, I don't have a grand, like, what's my world-changing vision? What's my vision? What's my Apple vision? Like, I don't have an Apple vision.
Right.
And that stops most people, because you go, well, what am I going to do? I don't have a vision like that.
Right.
You know, I'm not Steve Jobs. I'm not Zuckerberg. I'm not Elon Musk. Elon Musk didn't even have the vision to do what he's doing now. So I think it stops so many people because they think you need a grand vision to start. You don't need a grand vision to start.
No, you just need emotion.
Emotion. Go solve a problem.
Keep going.
Solve a problem that you know, right? And you might get some unexpected data and go, oh, actually, I thought I was solving this problem, but it turns out people actually are really using it for this. So like recognize, that was always the pattern, right? Was that people started off trying to solve some problem that they either personally felt or they thought was out there.
Yeah.
They are objective enough to see what people are actually doing, right? Sometimes people they drink their own Kool-Aid for so long that they get fixated. Like, I'm building this.
Right. They fall in love with the product.
Fall in love with the product.
Yeah.
And you have to be objective enough to know when you got to pivot, you know? And this, by the way, this is in music. This is in everything. It's like, this is going way back. You know the Bee Gees?
Of course.
Okay, everybody knows the Bee Gees for their falsetto high voice.
Yeah.
It didn't start like that. They did 2 or 3 albums where they just sang normally and had like no success. And they just did one song once where they did it all in falsetto, and it was kind of by accident. It wasn't like, oh, we've got this vision for harmonies. We're all gonna sound like this. And they didn't. It was a total accident.
People like it, let's double down.
And they doubled down. So having the objectivity to not be too married to your initial vision or what you're trying to do, and go, oh, actually, this has traction. I should double down on this. And a lot of people will miss that, right? So, you know, for a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurs or people that are thinking about doing things, like, don't think you need a grand vision. Most people didn't have a grand vision. Most people were just solving a discrete problem. Didn't have to be a huge problem, something that they could identify. And then had the objectivity and the willingness to then follow where that, you know, you start pulling on the thread and seeing where it goes.
Yeah.
And then kind of having the follow through and the objectivity to be able to then double down. And again, going back to what I was saying in music, look at the data, right? People have to get out of their own way. It's like, it doesn't matter what you think the world wants, right? And I think that we hear so much about, like, And there's some truth in Steve Jobs or Henry Ford saying, if I asked the people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. They wouldn't have told me a car. Steve Jobs saying, if I asked people what they wanted, it's a phone with buttons that was faster, not what I invented, right? Sometimes there is vision. Sometimes there's a sense of, I think this could actually work.
Yeah.
But again, they still got to look at the data, right? Because sometimes you have a vision for something like the Segway. Remember the Segway?
Yes.
I think the founder, ironically, one of the most ironic business stories, the founder of the Segway died on a Segway.
He did.
Going over a hill or something
like that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But the Segway was, great vision, but it was like a solution in search of a problem. That was the issue. It was like great tech, but
it's a great way to put
who's
it.
actually going to use that?
Right.
Like what?
Mall cops.
You weren't coming at it from a problem. You were saying, "Oh, this is cool tech," and then trying to figure out what problem could it solve. And it turns out, what was the problem? Like maybe cops at malls wasn't the everyday person.
No.
So it never really took off like that, other than mall cops. So inherently limited. But
I actually used one in Venice Beach once to go around that loop track.
Right.
That was really it.
I used to live there. Yeah, lots of people on Segways there. So I think the point being, vision is overrated. I think that if you're an entrepreneur, if you're trying to get into business, I think vision is overrated. I think just simply starting and then, look at the data and just go create. It reminds me of two things. So how pharmaceutical companies test drugs. You know this? I think a lot of people think that pharmaceutical company scientists, they're like, okay, I got to cure cancer. And then they go down the path, they're like, okay, it should be this drug and it should be this thing and then this formulation, this is going to do it. If you ever see what they actually do, it's like a total shotgun approach. They'll put like, a tray with 1,000 labeled little vials in it and put something different in all the vials. Like, for example, they're trying to figure out something that is an antibiotic. So they'll put bacteria in all the vials. They'll just put 1,000 different things in the vials,
see what happens.
Keep it for 3 days and see what happens. There's no vision. There's no grand vision.
Right.
It's not
trial
deductive.
and error.
Yeah, it's literally just trial and error. But they're quick and they're getting a lot of data.
Hey, if you work with digital marketing, online sales, or manage clients, the right tool makes all the difference. I use Go High Level, and I can guarantee that this all-in-one tool brings results for all my clients. With CRM, email, SMS, automation, scheduling, landing pages, and sales funnels, integrated and easy to use, management becomes simple, productivity increases, and campaigns perform way better. If you want to grow in an organized and efficient way, access my link and see how Go High Level can also change the way you work and sell. Do you think that the grand vision should be just don't quit? Just keep going whatever I do? You know what I mean?
It's interesting, man, because we hear don't quit.
Yeah.
And perseverance does matter. There's such an art to this. I think it's like yin yang, black and white. It's one of these kinds of things where if you never, so there are two things in the startup world that you hear a lot, right? One is perseverance, right? Which is most people just quit, like the Alex Hormozis of the world, right? It's like you got to, or Goggins, right? It's like don't quit, keep going. Your shins are breaking, keep going. There is something to be said for that when you're on the right track.
Okay.
The problem is knowing when you're on the right track. And that's one of the big mysteries, right? Now, in other words, because one of the other things you learned, there was this big movement when I was in, we called it Silicon Valley in LA, when the kind of tech world was starting there. And it was fail fast. So like you only have a certain number of bites at the apple because you age, because people only invest in you a certain amount of time,
money,
because if you've got an investment, you're only going to have a certain number of pivots until you just run out of money. So if you're going to fail fast, right? So what does that mean? Well, it means moving quickly, doing it as inexpensively as possible. That's where like MVPs came from, minimum viable product. Like what is the least I could do to get out there to see if I've got traction or if I'm going in the wrong direction.
Right.
Traditional entertainment, this is one thing that like traditional industries never got, like hoteliers, hospitality, entertainment. You'd go to them with a project to be like, okay, we need 6 years. We need $100 million. And then how will we know if the movie ends up being good? Once it comes out. And so you're taking like a 6-year, $100 million bet.
Crazy.
Versus, going and doing like a 5-minute scene, right? So that's the way The Matrix was done, right? When The Matrix got pitched originally, which was like a groundbreaking film.
Yeah.
One of the most successful in history, right? When The Matrix got pitched, they said, look, we're not going to give you the funding for the whole film. Here's a fraction of the budget. And they spent it all doing the first scene where Trinity's with the cops and they have the camera
rooftop
going around
running,
her.
yes.
So they're showing off the tech, the vibe, the look, the feel. They came back with that. Everybody was like, holy shit, this is amazing. You didn't even need to know the rest of the movie. You're like, just do that, more of that. And then they gave them the rest of the budget, right? If they were on the wrong track and took $100 million and spent 3 years putting the movie together then tested it, I'd be like, fuck, you might have wasted all that time and money.
Right.
So I think one of the things that tech learned early on, because it could, but a lot of it was just mindset. It's not that entertainment or other businesses can't do this. In fact, I think in any business you could do this. Is like we'd go to these startup weekends. I would be a judge at some of these like hackathons and startup weekends.
That's
right?
cool.
And it was astonishing what people in one weekend could put together, right? When you talk to most people, they're like, I've been thinking about 3 years of this idea and they haven't taken a step. It's like these people who created the beginning of the business in a weekend.
Crazy, yeah.
But why? Well, because if they had an idea for, they had an idea for, let's say, a product, right? Oh, well, this product is going to be this new cup that keeps itself heated, and we're going to have to design that. We're going to need money for research and development. It's going to be probably 9 months to design. Then we'll get a prototype out. It's like, what if we just mock it up? We say what it's going to be. We throw up a website and say this isn't yet in stock, but you could pre-order it.
Kickstarter.
Boom. 2 hours later, validation. Do people want it or they don't want it?
Right.
And now instead of wasting all the money and 2 years of effort, no one wanted that. Or they do want it. We should triple down on this. We should go get the budget. We should make this because people really want it. And I think it's just getting into that mindset of like, what could I do to validate whether this is or is not a good idea as quickly and cheaply as possible? And I think in almost every business you could do that today because of the internet, because of social media, right? Anybody can do this. If you're thinking about a new brand, I think I want to serve a certain niche in real estate, or I think I want to create this. I think I want to create these really unique lofts that are custom designed for podcasting because I think that people don't even live in lofts anymore. They just you could throw that up and validate that in an afternoon.
You literally could.
For $20 or something like that.
So especially now with AI.
Exactly, especially with AI, right? If you can imagine it, you can kind of create it. You don't need to be a coder anymore.
Right.
So I think that getting people to move quickly, getting out of their own way, not thinking that they have a grand vision, just go after it. So going back to the point why we started talking about this is the difference between persevere versus fail fast.
Yes.
When do you know when to give up? When do you know when to pivot? When is it not working? And when do you just need to go through the grind? And I think a lot of that ends up coming down to sometimes it's a little bit of gut, sometimes a little bit of like, I really believe this is going to work if I can break through. But usually that's based on some kind of data, right? If you're an artist and you're playing 100 rooms around the country and nobody likes you and nobody buys your CD and nobody follows you on Instagram.
Get the message.
Like at a certain point, you're like, I don't think it's about perseverance. I think it's just not connecting.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of it is figuring out, well, have I broken through? Like, did I present a minimum viable product and did that break through or not? And being objective and getting out of your own way, right? So like, it's great to have a vision, but you then have to balance that with being objective enough to listen to people that are like, dude, I don't know if this is working. And I'm not telling you I know everything, but I'm just saying, you need to start defining like, what would you need to see to double down on this and setting setting some limits for yourself. By the way, that goes for dating, that goes for anything in life.
Yeah. Before we go deeper into tech and AI, I want to ask you, your dad was a surgeon.
Yeah.
What made you become a lawyer and not a doctor?
I almost became a doctor. So I was pre-med and pre-law at UCLA. I took the MCAT and the LSAT. I did well in both. And I talked to my dad, and he's like, you should just go to law school. I was like, why? He goes, because medicine's becoming socialized. He's like, most people in Congress are lawyers, and they're not going to fuck themselves. So don't go to medicine. Because he had always had a private practice. So the medical practice he had still does exist. There was some private practice. But I think what he was seeing was a trend that it was becoming more socialized. Therefore, you'd be more a cog in a system. It wouldn't be quite as entrepreneurial. And it's not as satisfying when you're kind of working in that kind of a system. I mean, frankly, it's not unlike, I spent a lot of years working at large law firms. Large law firms are great for training. But for certain kinds of people like myself, they're just soul crushing, and they're ultimately not.
You felt caged?
Very caged.
Yeah.
Very just a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of FaceTime. That was a big thing when I started out. It was a lot of like, even if you didn't have anything to do, you sat at your desk until 7 p.m., 7:30, 8 on a Friday night, just so that if a partner walked by, they would see you and go, they're really trying hard.
That's BS.
Completely worthless, right? Like me sitting my ass in that chair does nothing. It doesn't bill extra hours. It doesn't make me smarter. In fact, it just probably tires me out, makes me less creative. And, I could be out meeting people, trying to bring in clients, So I think it kills a lot of creativity. It kills, you just become a cog in a system. And I think I was always, I appreciate my legal background. I still use my legal background, obviously, but I get to use it now in more entrepreneurial ways where I'm not a cog in a system. I think particularly, by the way, touching on like AI, I can see my industry being it already is being hugely disrupted by AI.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it's really good and needed. Like, I mean, 80% of accounting, I think medicine, diagnostics, law, contract drafting, paralegals. I use AI now.
Underwriting.
Yeah, I use AI like a well-trained associate.
Okay.
Read this contract and tell me if it talks about X, Y, and Z, and if so, where. What I've found is that you can't rely on it.
No, you
because
can't.
I've seen AI make massive mistakes. I mean, dude, a week ago, I'm really into wellness, longevity, stuff like that. I had a really thorough 14-page blood test done.
Okay.
Uploaded it to ChatGPT. Hey, tell me, what do I need to look out for? What's good? What's bad? 98% of the stuff amazing. Now, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about lately, if you're into longevity, you know that sarcopenia and the loss of muscle after age 45-ish is a thing. It's a real thing. It's because our follistatin levels go down, and follistatin is what checks myostatin. And myostatin is like your body's internal speed limiter. Like says, don't put on more muscle.
Got it.
So if your follistatin levels go down, your myostatin is more effective in keeping your muscle down, which is, we just generally it's harder and harder to keep muscle.
Yes.
And that ends up creating everything from diabetes to lack of motion has like lots of cascading downstream effects.
Got it.
So I asked it, how's my follistatin level? Right? Because I've been thinking about, maybe there's something called follistatin gene therapy you can do now. A lot of really interesting stuff. So I said, how's my follistatin level? Oh, follistatin level actually is amazing. You're at 1,709 nanograms per milliliter. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. For 2 months, I'm like, I'm calling my doctor, dude, my follistatin is like off the charts. It's amazing. I don't need to do this. Whatever prompted me a week ago, I went to look up my blood test. I'm like, I got to find where that was. I can't find it. I search. I go back to ChatGPT. Hey, you said, where did you find my follistatin levels? Oh, it's on page 13. It's in the additional blood test section. It's under this. I go back. I'm not seeing, how am I not seeing this? Either I'm having a total brain fart, or go back to the AI again. Hey, I'm not seeing this, man. What's right before it and what's right after it? Oh, it's right before this. It's right after this. Go back and look again. Okay, I'm literally looking at it, and I'm searching Control F, I'm not finding the word follistatin. AI. I have to admit I hallucinated that. What do you mean you hallucinated that? Yeah, it's not in your report. But you told me it wasn't. You even gave me a page number. Like, what are you seeing that makes you think that? And I started debating with this thing for 10 minutes, trying to pull out, like, how did this,
Right.
What do you mean you hallucinated it? And I start thinking, what else is it hallucinating, right? What if AI is in control of nuclear weapons and hallucinates an attack,
Man.
right? In law, it's already happened, right? There was a lawyer in California that was using AI a couple of years ago to draft a complaint. And AI just made up citations of cases. And then when the judge's associate went to look up those cases, they're like, these don't exist. They're not even, there is no case like this. They made it up.
Wow.
And the lawyer got disbarred for relying on AI, which hallucinated.
That's crazy.
I had two different, I had Grok and Gemini arguing with each other over a cap table and some legal contracts about a fundraise a couple of weeks ago. One each saying the other had no idea what it was talking about. It's missing something. And like, I ended up taking 3 hours going through documents, creating my own cap table in Excel until I finally got one of them to admit that it was wrong.
Okay. Do you think it'll be like this forever? Or do you think there'll be a crossing point where AI will no longer make these mistakes?
I don't know, because I don't know. I still don't know why. I'm not enough of an, like, I'd love to talk to a really deep AI engineer.
Yeah.
And be like, what is actually happening when it's hallucinating? And is that something you can program out of it?
Right.
Or is that innate? Like, is it flawed the way humans are flawed?
Right.
Like, we imagine things all the
For
time.
sure.
We think we
Daydream all
see
day.
things that we don't.
Yeah.
Not even daydreaming, just like literally seeing something. You're like, I saw this.
Right.
You know, you see like optical illusions all
Yeah.
the time. I
Yeah.
saw this. And your brain was actually just projecting something onto it, right? So we have that problem, and it appears that AI has that problem too, which is dangerous. But it also means, like, in the near future, like, I wouldn't use AI. I think AI is great, but I would have my doctor look over my reports too. And the way that I use it, I've been doing law for 25 years, so I use it like an assistant.
Yeah.
But I don't rely on it. I still have to double check. I still have to make calls. I see that it makes mistakes sometimes.
Tons.
There are judgment calls that it can't make. I think it'll continue getting better. I actually think that a good friend of mine is going through this really painful, like, 2-year lawsuit that's costing millions of dollars. I'm like, in the not too distant future, people, if we're in a lawsuit, you're suing me, we could just say, we're going to have AI do it today. Like, screw spending the next 2 years litigating and spending millions of dollars on legal fees. We're just
Right.
going to submit everything we have. It will ask follow-ups. We'll answer it honestly. And it's going to adjudicate this. Like, you were
Wow.
wrong. The contract said this. You owe him this.
That's crazy.
I think people are going to do that willingly.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's so painful.
It's
like,
simple.
imagine divorces. Imagine just being like, this will be over in a day or two,
Yeah.
not 2 years. And we're going to save a ton of money.
And headache.
So I think that overall it could be really good, but we're definitely kind of at a singularity insofar as we can't predict what's going to come out the other side. And I am genuinely really fearful about when you see heads of companies like OpenAI say, yeah, well, I don't know, the chance of something catastrophic like the end of humanity is like 10 to 20%.
Yeah.
That's not like 1 in a million. That's like 1 in 10, 1 in 5. Those are not good odds.
No, they're not.
If I told you today there's a 20% chance that you're going to get in your car and get killed today, you'd be like, I'm not getting in my car.
Probably going to stay home.
If it was 1 in 10, you'd still staying home.
Yeah. Might walk.
Yeah, but we're all kind of just marching toward it because, for a variety of different reasons. But so I think, I think that we're going to see a huge change over the next few years. I don't think anybody's prepared for it. I don't think there's any. The problem is because it's a singularity, we can't predict what comes out the other side. There is
Right.
no way to prepare for it, really. Because where do you put your money? What do you study?
Right.
What business do you start today that won't be disrupted? There's some things that we think won't be disrupted.
But we don't know.
We don't know.
On this AI legality conversation, what is your opinion on Anthropics and the U.S. government? That whole thing that occurred with them not allowing the U.S. government to use their AI for, I think it was surveillance and for, I believe it was attacks.
I mean, look, the government is certainly already using AI. They've been using AI. Like
sure.
whatever we think is out there, CIA, Pentagon, I mean, they've been using it for a long time, right? We know they have. They certainly have, whether it's within weapons or intelligence. In terms of intelligence gathering and spotting patterns, it's incredible. Like, I'm sure they're doing war games with it. I'm sure they're doing, before they went into Venezuela, before they go into Iran, they're like running everything through it. I think that at least, we're seeing with companies like Anthropic, I think at least an impulse to try to be ethical and do the right thing.
Right. I like that word.
But I don't think that impulse ultimately will win. The market forces are too strong, and it's like when Einstein spoke out about nuclear weapons. It was like, you're in the middle of World War II. Like, we're not stopping.
Yeah.
No matter what your rationale is, no matter how smart you are, even if you invented the theories that gave rise to this, we're going to keep going. And we're going to end up in a world, humans, we just do this. It's very hard for us to step on the brakes when like going back to the beginning of the conversation, we're heading toward the waterfall.
Yes.
And we're not doing anything about it. And there are people saying you're heading toward a waterfall.
It's a good analogy.
I think most of us deep down know that we're heading for a waterfall. But people like us,
some of us want the waterfall.
Yes, some people want the waterfall.
Some people do.
But I mean, if it's like the end of humanity, nobody should want the waterfall, right?
Yeah.
And that is a possibility. And it would happen if it happens incredibly quickly, right? If you think about the speed with which AI can move and make decisions, like, if AI did become self-aware, did have control over weapons, it would be
what a world.
A minute or two for it to run all the analysis and then take an action. Like think about how long it takes ChatGPT to answer you.
Yeah.
It would be that long. Like, we would have no warning. It would just happen. There's nothing, we couldn't legislate our way out of it. We couldn't have meetings to get out of it. We couldn't engineer our ways out of it. Like, it'll be too late if that happens. So, I think all we can do is try to, do the best we can. I do think it's good for the people that have these impulses to be speaking out. I still think, even if you feel like you're shouting into a storm, you still kind of owe it to yourself and everybody else to do that. I really hope that there are people that have the power in some of these countries to be trying to pull back a little bit.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Like, so far we haven't had a nuclear world war. Hopefully that holds.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're living in a world where that could happen. Same thing, I think, with AI. It's like, look, either this could be utopia, where it solves cancer and it allows people to not have to work as much, and we come up with some way of distributing resources that people are happy with.
Yeah.
It's possible. I think it's going to be a really rocky road on the way there.
As a podcaster, I needed a place to share my voice and hear other stories. That's how Forge Studios was born. A place created not just for me, but for everyone searching for something more. An environment where as soon as you walk in, you feel the energy and you feel welcomed. Where being seen and heard is part of the experience. A place for entrepreneurs to share their journey, for creators to bring ideas to life, for businesses to grow authentically. A space that values mental health, encourages real conversations, and supports those who turns ideas into impact. Here at the Forge Studios, creativity, culture, and purpose aligns and comes together to help you create something greater. A place where we leave the filters behind and we start expressing ourselves for real. The Forge Studio. Your journey starts here. Your impact starts now.
I agree with you.
Even
I
if we
think
get
it'll
it
get
sorted
worse
out.
before it gets better.
It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And it hasn't even started to get worse yet.
I agree.
All we're seeing right now are just, Amazon laid some people off. Like we're seeing hints of it, but
What's your time frame?
I mean, it's in the next 2 or 3 years. I think most of the experts that I've seen think it's 1 to 3 years out.
Yeah, 2030 is what I'm hearing.
Definitely by 2030.
Yeah.
Maybe 2027. Sometime 2027 to 2030. I think is when, you have to imagine what happens when 80% of lawyers, accountants, doctors are all out of work.
That's crazy.
Like what happens when all of the people that did what they thought they were supposed to do?
Yeah. It's
are
already happening to
unemployed.
computer engineers.
Computer engineers, drivers. Like that's one of the biggest workforces in the world, right?
Yes.
What if 90% of drivers, of people that work in fast food chains, in lawyers, doctors, accountants, diagnostic people, what if they're all out of work? What happens to real estate?
That's a world that we don't know.
We don't know, but I can't imagine that it's good for any of those things.
No, it's not.
Right? If 80% of the buyers can't afford houses anymore, what happens to real estate?
Crashes.
I mean, it would have to. I don't see any other. And it's going to happen around the world. It's not just going to be
sure.
in the U.S. It's going to be in every country.
We're all
right?
connected, yeah.
We're all connected, and all of those professions around the world are going to be impacted in the same way. So it's not localized to us. So I think we're living in a really interesting time.
Very.
I think there's a huge amount that's going to change, and it's going to change really quickly. Think about like OpenClaw, and think about things that you just weren't even talking about or thinking about 3 months ago. That were like, I remember a few weeks ago, it was like I couldn't avoid a YouTube video about Claude and OpenClaw and what was happening. Like you couldn't avoid it.
No, it was everywhere.
And I remember seeing it going, what the, like where, it just came out of nowhere seemingly. And in some sense it did. I mean, this is all very recent. Like these developments are very recent.
But yeah, it's about 2 months old.
Yeah.
It's crazy how
Yeah.
fast it's moving.
So to your point, like I think, in business, like what am I doing? I've been a lawyer. It's a traditional, white collar kind of job, but I'm using and learning as much as I possibly can, knowing that like, it's going to be really disruptive, but at least for the time being, I can use it to magnify what I'm doing. And what I offer that AI doesn't, which is a real person to get on that video call and argue with you about X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
or pull something out, or have a certain level of judgment. I mean, what's interesting is people still want almost human nature. Like you still want someone to blame if it goes
sure.
well, if it doesn't go well. Like who was responsible for this?
Right.
I have a friend that runs a huge venture fund. We did a panel together like 6 months ago. And he was kind of like bragging to me. It's like, no offense, Eric, but like I haven't talked to a lawyer in 9 months. And I'm looking at all the mistakes it's making going, I don't know if that's a good thing. Like it's great that you can use AI when a term sheet comes in at midnight on a Saturday and you're not going to get a lawyer for a couple of days,
Right.
to at least start doing some review. But just saying, I'm done. It's like saying I'm done talking to doctors. I'm done talking to lawyers. I'm just going to use AI. At least right now it's too risky.
What would make you comfortable in saying, okay, we've crossed that line?
I think it would have to be, I mean, for me, myself, it would be
What would you
like,
need to see, basically?
yeah, if I could go a few months without seeing it make a real mistake, really miss something,
Yeah.
I'd feel a lot more comfortable. I think that we'll probably get there. Like, I think that we'll get there. And the question is, when we get there, is there anything to be said for having a human involved? Like,
I think there will be.
yeah, I think for a lot of people and a lot of businesses, they still want to interact with somebody.
Yeah.
There's still, I mean, I think it's a level of trust.
For sure.
Right? There's still a distrust of a machine.
Right. I see the AI doing the work and the human being the interpreter.
Yes.
Sort of, right?
And that's, frankly, I mean, honestly, it's a lot of what I end up doing. A lot of the ground level drafting and reviewing that I would have an associate do, AI does. And I'm doing the interpretation, the explaining, calling the shots on the bigger pieces that you either can't ask AI or wouldn't ask AI.
Right.
Because ultimately, if you're it's like my friend running a fund. I'm like, dude, you're not going to be able to point to ChatGPT if something goes wrong. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
You need to point to somebody that you say, I trusted this person They fucked up.
Right. And I can sue him.
Yeah, then I could sue them, right? You can't sue OpenAI,
Right.
right? Or if you do, you're not really going to be successful. And they're telling you, look, we're not doctors and lawyers. Don't take our advice for this. So I think we're going to get to a place. I mean, frankly, I think we'll get to a place pretty quickly where I probably would trust AI more than most doctors because they're objective and they have access to all information.
That's a good point.
Not just access to, because doctors have access, knowledge of all information.
Right.
They can take all studies into account.
Cross-reference it.
Cross-reference it in real time and give you an output. So I think, by the way, same thing with like, I think in most cases today, I would trust AI to do an analysis of my accounting better than an accountant. I'd be like, it's probably going to miss less. It's probably going to make fewer errors.
Probably.
There may be some high-level calls like, okay, well, given that we messed this up, what's the likelihood that the IRS has a problem with us, right? You might want a person answering that. But AI will tell you, it's low enforcement, it's high risk, medium risk. They'll kind of tell you the same thing a lawyer could tell you. They can't really guarantee you anything. But I do think that in the very near future, like, I think we'll trust AI to do surgeries with robotics. I think we'll trust AI to,
That's
be
crazy.
court instead of going to court. I think huge, big things in your life you're going to trust even more to AI. It'll have a lower error rate. I mean, cars are already doing that, right? The self-driving cars are crashing less than human-driven cars.
Yes.
At a certain point in time, insurance companies, governments are going to go, how do we justify letting people drive? They're not good, right? Like, it's just better to not drive.
That's going to be crazy.
I'm a driving enthusiast. Like I race cars and motorcycles. Like that's going to be a really sad day. If the only thing I can do is go to a racetrack and then I can drive, like I would personally be really bummed out.
So would I.
A lot of people would.
I'm similar. Cars, motorcycles. Similar. Yeah.
Like there's something about that that I think is really important. By the way, I think for a lot of men, it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is like men need to be dangerous. Right? Like Jordan Peterson talks about being a good man versus a nice man. You don't want to be a nice guy. A nice guy just means you're a pussy.
I agree.
You don't stand up for yourself.
100%.
It's not that you're not being confrontational because you're choosing not to.
Right.
That's your only choice. You're not dangerous. You can't be confrontational. And I think particularly in today's society for most men, we're not in war.
Right.
You're not physically, there are almost never physical altercations. I think men need to engage in activities that speak to that healthy masculine, whether it's cars, motorcycles, shooting guns, skydiving, whatever,
I agree.
fighting, combat. You got to tap into that masculine energy. And it's amazing how many, I'll go post, one of my friends was the guy that trained Keanu Reeves and all those people for John Wick. He's
That's
like a shooter.
awesome. Yeah.
So I learned how to shoot there, and I would post. I just like doing it for fun. I would post, and I'd have all these guys that worked in offices that were, fun guys or whatever else. Oh man, that looks amazing. I got to come do that. I spend all day in this office, and then I go home, and I've got a wife and a daughter, and like everything is so domesticated. I kind of need to I need to shoot a gun.
A release.
Yeah, I need some kind of masculine release. And I think it's hugely important for men, particularly founders and particularly fathers. Like guys, particularly in midlife, start to feel like they've lost their edge.
Start a group, Eric.
Yeah. Yeah. So we definitely talked about doing that in a more organized way because I think one of the biggest thing, and you tell me if you think this resonates, but I think for a lot of men past the age of 40, they want to be dangerous again.
Yeah.
What that felt like, right?
100%.
Whether when it was you at 18 years old without a helmet, riding a motorcycle around your town, meeting up with someone, like you just want to feel like there's possibility that you haven't reached your limit, that there's some degree of controlled risk. Like you want to tap into that healthy masculine. And
I feel like at 40, you're wiser, you're more mature. You have more of a sense of how life goes, right? Than when you were 20. So it's like, no, I want to enjoy this at 40 as well.
Yeah, and also by the time you're 40, now you've got kids. Now you're in a career where you don't want to stand out. You don't want to challenge the system.
Right.
You don't want to, and you kind of become cowed to a certain extent. Like you start to become kind of a shadow of who you remember yourself being or wanting to be. And there's no reason that you can't be that. And I think that's why when I would take people out shooting or take them to a racetrack or whatever, like working out, anything, like getting stronger, it ends up making men such better men. Not because, because I think we've been told for so long that like masculinity's been demonized. It's like, well, no, there's toxic femininity and there's toxic masculinity. And there's also
toxic people.
There's healthy femininity and healthy masculinity.
For sure.
And I think demonizing all masculinity and making, people that are into fitness or crazy right-wing, wackos. It's like, why are you wacko? Because you're taking care of your body. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Haters.
But I think it also does serve a purpose, which is it keeps the strongest men who always throughout history been the most threatening to whatever the powers that be, the structure, the family, whatever it is, keeps them compliant.
Man, I get on my Ducati and I feel so manly, and I just let all that stress out, and I just go for a ride.
Doesn't it change you? It changes
my God,
you. You go for one ride, and you come back, and like it changes you.
It's incredible.
Like I think if you take most men that really feel that way, that feel like they're not dangerous anymore. If I had a couple months with them, it's like, dude, I'm going to teach you how to shoot. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to get your diet, your body figured out.
I hear a program
teach you how to ride motorcycle. You become a different person.
Yeah, you
and
do.
It makes you a better, whether you're a husband, a father, a founder, and an executive,
better leader,
whatever it is.
Yeah,
you're just you're a better man for it. And finding those, focusing on, I think men finding those outlets. It's so easy for guys to kind of go, you put all those things down in the list. It's like, like when I worked at a law firm, it was like nobody else shoots or rides motorcycles or is into cars. Most of them don't work out. It's like, no, I don't need to. I just need to focus on work. I need to focus on my girlfriend. I need to focus on. It's like you've got all
my
these
fantasy football team.
Yeah, your fantasy football team, and you kind of put all of these other things so far down the list. And I remember I was really into bodybuilding and stuff like that in college. I remember getting into law firms and literally like covering myself and then actively not going to the gym as much. Wow. I was like, I don't want to stand out. I never had tattoos when I was working at firms. And it was like, you just want to fit in. I wouldn't even talk about riding motorcycles. It was like,
different
talk
time.
about work.
Yeah.
And a lot of men get into these systems and these environments where they feel like they have to shrink themselves.
Be constricted, yeah.
Be constricted. Yeah. And I think that learning how to be dangerous again is hugely important. And it ends up changing so many things in your life for the better. For myself, I mean, it was like, I remember I was like, 42, and I was like, 40 pounds overweight and just like bad shape, couldn't go do things, didn't feel good about myself. And it affects how you think about yourself, affects how you show up at work. Of course. It affects how risk-taking you are with ventures. It affects so many of your other decisions. If you're dating, if you're with somebody, it affects so many other decisions.
When you look good, you feel good.
Yeah. It all starts at times in my life where I've been the most successful or also when I've been the most physically fit. And I think
there's definitely a correlation to that.
There's a correlation.
100%.
And like you said, right? Like finding those outlets when you get on that Ducati. And I always try, like, it's hard explaining to people that don't ride motorcycles. Like, I love cars too. Motorcycles are just on another level.
A complete different level. It's uncomparable.
Something different.
Yeah, 100%.
And there are safe ways to do it. And of course, it's never 100% safe. But by the way, neither is getting on a plane. Neither is like
life's not safe.
By the way, getting a corporate job and working 80 hours a week and not sleeping is also super bad for your health.
Correct.
Gonna take years off your life, right?
Yeah.
Everything has a cost. So I think, for men to kind of find those outlets, especially today and in the last decade, where we're kind of living in this world where so much masculinity has been demonized. And so many men are kind of trying to figure out, well, what am I supposed to be now, right? Like when I was growing up, who were the role models? It was like Sylvester Stallone, right?
The first person that came to mind as well was Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger,
right? Jean-Claude Van Damme. You have these really masculine
Chuck Norris.
archetypes. Yeah, like Chuck Norris. You have these really masculine archetypes who oftentimes were also really good guys. They weren't evil guys.
No.
It's not like Arnold was bigger than everybody and therefore went around just beating everybody up. It was like he, normally you're using it for good, right? And I think, like James Bond growing up and stuff like that, it was like these kind of good guy masculine archetypes. And I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't think if you were 16 today, who in that age range, like, who in their 20s would you look at?
Probably be superheroes. Probably like Iron Man or Captain America, things like that.
But like, I don't know, like Timothy Chalamet, great actor.
Great
but
actor.
not a masculine archetype.
No,
right?
Not at all.
There's like been a huge feminization. And by the way, it doesn't mean that every strong man, I mean, look, the Daniel Craig James Bond movies were my favorites of all time. I grew up with a lot of the older ones. Like that.
Casino Royale is such a good movie.
Casino Royale, Skyfall.
Yeah,
like,
Skyfall.
By the way,
Spectre.
he's not jacked, but he's like
he's
dangerous.
Yeah.
He's a dangerous man who isn't going around just, randomly killing everybody he can see. And he's not using it in a toxic way, right? He's doing good and he's trying to do good.
John Wick's probably the modern version of that.
John Wick. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that story resonates. I think particularly with men, it resonates so much because the beginning of John Wick, so many men identify with that. Like what you see is this family guy. And you're like, by the way, it's beautiful. Like he's in love. It's amazing. Love is amazing. Finding a woman that you love, amazing. But he also locked that part of himself in concrete, right? He put the dangerous part away. And at the end of the day, like you see toward the end of the sequel, it's like, John, it's not just that you're avenging. This is also part of who you are.
Correct.
Like,
Don't hide.
You like being a dangerous man.
Yes.
Like this is in your blood. And stop hiding from it, right? And I think like that, him, that scene where he's breaking through, like every man in the world wants to feel like that, right? There isn't a man in the world that watches that movie that hears about the Russian with the voiceover while he's breaking that going, you don't know who you fucked with. This guy was the assassin. And you're like, how amazing would it be to be that guy?
Yes.
Right? Because deep down, every man wants to be dangerous. And every man wants to believe that if he breaks through the floor, he could find that John Wick in himself, right? And the reality is that we actually do all have it. You just have to give yourself, the first part of it is just giving yourself permission to even do that.
Yeah.
Because
and then go and break through it.
Because in so many circles today, anything even resembling any of that is kind of, viewed as like, not politically correct or toxic or whatever other judgment comes out.
Yeah.
And I think that men, especially as they get on through life, really need to find that. Men in middle age need to be dangerous again.
I love that. Very well said. Eric, if you can give us some lawyer tips for entrepreneurs and influencers, what would that be?
What would I say? Don't underestimate. So, contracts and putting companies together, like these are foundations.
Yeah.
They're oh shit documents. When things go, no one ever looks at a contract after it's signed unless things go sideways. So it's always the document that people go, oh my God, this guy just didn't pay me. What does the document say? So you're basically paying lawyers to worry about likely future scenarios or even sometimes unlikely future scenarios and try to protect you from those.
Yeah.
It's like a prenup, right? I would definitely say never get married without a prenup. Never go into business with someone without an entity and an operating agreement or bylaws. Same thing. You don't want to leave it to the government or leave it to default laws to establish what the rules are.
Yeah.
Establish them yourself. And a marriage is one of the biggest partnerships. When I think about, I can't tell you how many men I've worked with and represented where the driving problematic force in their life was the women they were with. And by the way, this is not an anti-female. I'm not saying that at all. Sometimes the guys are crazy, but it's the dynamic. It's that relationship. It's the relationship with the other person, especially when it's not going well. that becomes almost the overriding factor in affecting their health, their business, and everything else. And I've seen an incredible number of men. I mean, dude, think about the Johnny Depps. I've got a client that, you know, huge tech founder, super successful. These all came out in the stories. I'm not going to mention his name, but it all came out as public. You know, dated someone, decides to hire her. They break up. Company raises a few $100 million. Suddenly she finds a lawyer that says she was actually sexually harassed and she was actually an employee, and, you know, he gets fired. He spends millions of dollars on legal fees. Like, the relationships that men have with women can really make or break them.
I think I know who you're talking about.
You might.
I think I do.
And it's still unresolved and still ongoing. And I mean, you know, I've worked with people. It's really, again, because of the position that I'm in, people will tell me things that they're not posting, that they're not telling a lot of other people.
Right.
Because I'm there to help them solve the problem. I mean, from some of the biggest people you can think of, the issues they had in their relationships and the issues that they had with women were, I would rank them among the top, among the biggest problems to overcome in their lives. And in every case, it was avoidable.
Were you consulting Johnny Depp during his trial?
I wasn't consulting Johnny Depp on the trial. I worked with him on other tech and entertainment kind of stuff.
Got it.
But his trial was really a landmark. It's interesting, coming out of the Me Too movement, where it was like, believe every woman, and we were all kind of reminded, well, women can also lie.
Right.
Just like
And
men
they do
can.
a lot.
And women lie just like men do.
Yeah.
The idea that somehow, because of your gender, you're somehow always telling the truth and that you're somehow always noble is absurd.
It's ridiculous.
It's absurd both ways. You would never trust every man and you would never trust every woman. It would be insane to.
Yeah.
And, you know, in fact, I mean, I've known so many men that really have just really had their kind of lives and things tanked because of relationships with women. And I'm not saying don't have relationships with women. I'm saying that men, you need to be smarter about what you open yourself up to. You need to be smarter about what you say and don't say. You know, it's just, you know, don't hire a woman that you're dating. Don't make it an employment issue. If you want to date her. Don't bring her into the company. That opens up a whole other legal. So going back to like tips for founders, in general, I know there are exceptions. In general, don't do business with people that you're dating, especially if you're a man and you're the CEO. Don't hire a woman to work for you. You're mixing two things that could become really, really bad if things go sideways. And I've seen it happen time after time after time. Don't underestimate structure. So like, if you're going to go into business, get a lawyer. I know it sucks. No one wants to pay money, but nail down the basics. What happens if someone doesn't want to be in the business? What happens if someone steals from the business? All of these what ifs. Don't just, oh, we're good friends now, I'm sure it'll all be fine.
Yeah.
Almost never happens that way, right? At some point, money, success changes things, and you would not believe. I mean, I worked with an NFT company that was getting $100 million funding offers.
Wow.
And they were like, by the way, Eric, we don't have any corporate documents. Like, we didn't even do the basics.
Wow.
We didn't even do the legal Zoom stuff.
That's crazy.
That were being offered $100 million financings. Like, I see people just kind of put it off. And it's because, you know, if you're an engineer, you tend to look at the engineering as the important part, and legal is like roadblock. They're like, it's like, what do I need that for?
Right.
Turns out that you do. It's like being in love and saying, what do I need a prenup for? Because if things don't work out, the government's going to figure it out for you. You'd be better off figuring it out yourself beforehand. So like investing in a lawyer to do the basic stuff. You don't have to over lawyer things, but you do have to get the basic stuff in any relationship. And then for influencers, creators, it's really protecting your IP. It's amazing. For example, I would, review contracts for influencers with brands. They get a brand deal.
Okay.
Right? Could be a podcaster. They got a brand deal. And most of the time they go, oh, it's just a brand deal. What are they focused on? I need this money.
Right.
The money amount is right. I don't see anything that seems crazy. And they don't spend the time in page 8 going through, the 3 paragraphs of IP rights. How long can the brand use their image and their likeness? Is it forever? Is it for anything? What happens if you only work with a brand for 6 months? You become huge, and that brand has perpetual ongoing rights to use your name and likeness.
Wow.
And now they're posting you. And now the creator comes to me and I go, did you have someone look over this? No, I didn't.
That's crazy.
But you signed it. Yeah, I did. Okay, well, they have the right to do this forever. And they're, well, I got to do something. I got to get out of this. It looks like I'm still working with that brand, and I'm losing other sponsors because it looks like I'm still working with this brand, and I'm not.
That's crazy.
Can I tell people
you are, right?
Can I tell people I don't even work with that brand anymore? Well, that might be disparaging, and it says you can't disparage them in there. So you can't say anything, and they can keep using your name and likeness. Like, I've seen people get into things like that more often than not because they're not looking for that. When they sign the deal, it's like, what's the term? How much am I getting paid? What are the deliverables? This post, this, and they're not getting into the weeds of like, well, what does it mean if this paragraph you didn't totally understand gave them rights to do things that you weren't even thinking of? I see that a lot.
That's crazy. How important is trademarking?
I mean, it really depends on. I mean, it is important to plant a flag in the ground.
Right.
If
like,
you've got,
should I trademark that name for this podcast?
I would, yeah. If you're using and basing your brand on something, yes. If you can go like system is not trade out of the system, probably trademarkable.
Okay.
I would immediately be saying, does someone else own this? Because the problem is you get going down the road and then in 2 years you're successful and figure out, oh my God, there's what would it be? Like a colon cleanse business called Out of the System that you never have heard of.
Right.
That trademarked it 10 years ago. And they trademark digital products and websites, and you're like, fuck, I don't do anything like that. And, so
Got it.
Definitely trademarking. I would look into trade. As soon as you think you have a brand that you want to invest in, it's not that expensive. And by the way, you don't have to trademark it around the world if you don't want to. Start in the US, but plant a flag. Protect your IP.
It's great advice.
Same thing like you'd want to go get a website, right? You'd be like, well, I got to make sure I get the website.
Right.
Same kind of thing. Do the trademark, get the foundational documents, create an entity so that you're not, if you have you're running a podcast and you've got real estate here, make sure that you've got insurance and make sure that people can't sue you personally. If someone walks in drunk and slips on the floor and breaks their neck, you're not liable, right? Lawyers, unfortunately, get paid to think about all the bad things that could happen. They're kind of like pessimists. You get paid, you have to be kind of a pessimist.
Right. What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong here? And you're paying someone to think about that for you because it's just like insurance. It's like probably you're not going to crash your car when you go out, but you might, or someone might hit you. And so it's for those moments that you want to get some basic protection. Don't do it all on LegalZoom or ChatGPT. I see a lot of people. I mean, I can't tell. I'm thinking there's a guy. It mixes two of the things we just talked about: women and not getting a lawyer. And this guy was in business with a girl he was dating. Signed a ChatGPT document.
Mistake number 2.
Got into business. That was the first mistake. Second mistake was one night, I'm sure it was, I love you so much and I love you too, and we should trust each other. So that I'm going to create a ChatGPT document that says I'm a co-founder. Let's sign it. Yeah, okay. Signs the document. Doesn't tell his existing partner that he's just gave half the company to the girl he's dating.
Wow.
You can imagine what ensues after that, right? They stop dating.
Yeah.
What happens then? You just, your imagination, you just all the things you think would happen happened.
That's crazy.
And I was like, did you have a lawyer look at this? No. You didn't tell your other partner? No. and you just did it on ChatGPT. I mean, there were literally like comments in the agreement with like suggestions from ChatGPT that shouldn't even be in the agreement. Like, it's so clearly not a lawyer drafted agreement. I see people relying on LegalZoom,
But it's still
AI
legally
too
binding,
much.
right?
It gives the other person enough to make your life miserable and maybe get a big piece of your company.
That's
It
crazy.
helps to be able to say, well, I didn't have a lawyer, but they're going to be like,
So what?
you're a successful business. What do you mean you didn't have a lawyer?
Right.
Like, did you sign? You got it notarized. Like, you went to the effort of printing it, signing it, and notarizing it.
That's crazy.
So it creates a real problem. I see a lot of people get into problems like that they just never. And people, and the thing is, it's not like unsuccessful people. I've seen crazily successful people just do things where I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you
Carelessness,
actually,
is that what it is?
like, imagine that you are, an uber successful celebrity, and you've been married before, and you've been through hard divorces before, and you totally understand what can happen in a divorce, PR-wise, the divorce, how much money it could cost you. And you call me up and go, yeah, you remember that woman that I married a couple years ago? I never got a prenup, man. Should I get a postnup? I'm like, you can try, but
Good
man,
luck.
this is going to be hard now. And he's now going through issues. And it's like, man, it wasn't like you didn't have the money. It wasn't like
Right.
you didn't have a legal team.
Right.
It wasn't like you didn't know. What is it?
You've been through it before. Yeah.
It's like going back to the beginning, man. It's your ego getting the best of you. It's, thinking
It'll be different this time.
thinking it'll be different, lying to yourself
Yeah.
to avoid conflict or, whatever else.
Right.
Never ends up working well. But that's what I mean. Like, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, if I were successful, I wouldn't. No, some of the most successful people I know have made those. I mean, Johnny Depp made that mistake, right?
Yeah.
He married a crazy person and let it go on and let her record things and use it against him. Like, people that have teams around them still do this. People really do screw themselves a lot. I've seen this so much. I mean, the crazy thing is, the guy, one of the guys that I work with that had problems because he had hired a woman, and then they broke up, and then a big lawsuit ensued. And then while I'm representing him, he's like, dude, I just got married. I'm like, oh, dude, I didn't even know that. It's amazing. I'm like, she doesn't work for the company, right? He's like, no, she does. He's like, explain this to me. I don't know. It'd be like, trying to run across freeway intersections, getting hit by a car, and then going out the next week and doing it. You're like, okay, there's something going on why you keep putting yourself in this position.
Human beings.
That's the deeper, figuring
Yeah.
out what your issues are and reprogramming it. Like, that's a whole separate conversation. But everybody, even the most successful people that you would never think would do this, get in their own way. Screw themselves, sabotage themselves.
It's incredible.
Like, learning how to do that less. People are never perfect, but just
Yeah.
learning how to do that less, having people around you that can call you on your bullshit and will be honest about it, is one of the most important things you can have.
Hey, if you work with digital marketing, online sales, or manage clients, you know the right tool makes all the difference. I use Go High Level, and I can guarantee that this all-in-one tool brings results for all my clients. With CRM, email, SMS, automation, scheduling, landing pages, and sales funnels, integrated and easy to use, management becomes simple, productivity increases, and campaigns perform way better. If you want to grow in an organized and efficient way, access my link and see how Go High Level can also change the way you work and sell. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I think part of this is just where I think my profession goes, but part of it is just where I think I also professionally go, which is doing more and more of the high level, being a consigliere and less of a lawyer.
Okay.
Like, being someone trusted that's seen everything to help particularly men, avoid the pitfalls, not step on the landmines
Got it.
as they go through business, as they go through life. Helping men become dangerous again, I think, is really where I'd like to spend
I
the
love
next
that.
decade.
And you fit that so well.
Thank you.
You do.
It's really honestly meaningful work, and I really, there's such a need for it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for myself. I've gone through that process of like, when you can do something, just doesn't mean that may be the only thing you should be doing.
Right.
Right. And for so long, man, I've been a lawyer. Like that's been the thing on top of, that's been on my card. That's been who I am as an identity for so long.
Yeah.
I saw my dad retire from being a surgeon. And I think particularly, it still exists, but particularly in his generation, like post-World War II, what you did was who you were.
Right.
To your core.
It defined you, yeah.
Defined you. And I saw my dad, who I really love, just physically and mentally wither away, like literally after retiring, because that was all he was.
He didn't know who he was.
What was he if he wasn't a surgeon?
Right.
And we would, like, I took him down. He went to Colombia to get some stem cell treatments for, he's got Alzheimer's, and he was getting some stem cell treatments, and he was doing the one-on-one with the doctor. And he's like, yeah, I'm a physician. I'm like, Dad, you retired like 15 years ago. You're not a physician anymore. And it wasn't a memory thing. It was almost like, how do I talk about myself if I'm not a physician?
I understand. Yeah.
And I think that's hugely important for particularly for men who are so defined by what they do,
Yes.
to have other things that they care about. And particularly, not only because this has happened throughout time as you age, but now with AI. If you've always been an accountant and there just aren't any more accountants,
Right.
who are you? And I think finding other things that you care about, finding things that you're interested in. I mean, my dad didn't really have hobbies, didn't golf, didn't have other things that gave him purpose.
Right.
And, watching in real time the person who was the smartest guy that I ever knew and who was strong and super capable and knew something about everything, just physically and mentally wither away unnecessarily quickly because of not having purpose, not working out, not caring about what you eat, like all the things internally and externally that you could be doing.
While being a doctor.
Yes. Yeah. Was really shocking to me. And I think that made me think a lot about, okay, where do I go over the next 30 years? Like, what could I be doing now to position myself differently? And what could men in general be doing? And so many men that you meet now, I think, are more generally aware of that. Like friends of mine that have kids that'll say, I had a daughter and I realized, like, I don't want to be in 20 years where my dad was in his 60s. I need to be, I want to look like, the amazing thing is that when I came up, I lived in LA to go to college and law school and all that, and worked for 25 years there. And I went to Gold's Gym in Venice. And what was interesting about Gold's Venice is it was the mecca of bodybuilding from the 50s.
Yep.
So what you had there was this really unique set of people. Fitness as a thing didn't really become popular until like the late 80s.
Okay.
What you had then is in the 2000s, you had people that were in their 50s and 60s that had been working out at Gold's regularly and eating well and bodybuilding and all that for decades. They didn't look like the 60-year-olds that I knew. They looked like they were 20 years younger. Their minds were great, their bodies were great. And it was like a petri dish, for like, what if you didn't live the way most people live? And what if you actually did? Now with, the Peter Attias and the Hubermans of the world and all of that, I think more men are kind of understanding that, like, caring about your body is not just a vanity thing. It's literally a longevity thing.
Yeah, it's a life thing.
It's a life thing. It's how long and how well you live. And having health span is really important.
Right. You can't create if you're not healthy.
No. And I think that more, and again, it's tying into that becoming dangerous again. You want to be mentally, emotionally, physically dangerous. Doesn't mean that you're doing bad things. It just means that you're capable.
Yes.
If something falls on your daughter, can you pick it up? Do you want to be able to get up off the couch when you're, a certain age? And it's like, man, you need to be doing this stuff now to prepare yourself for down the road, And with AI and with longevity, like, look, we could very well live to 120 or 130.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be surprised if that happens.
I
because
agree.
I think with the advances that we're seeing and with what AI is going to do with medicine and longevity and gene therapies and whatnot, I think we're going to be able to have incredibly long lives, which also totally changes how you think about your career. It's like if you're 50 or you're 40 and you're like, oh man, I'm half over. It's like, bro, you're going to live to 130 and you'll probably be able to work to 125. You've got 85 years left.
That's crazy.
Of work. Not seeing that as a burden.
Right.
Being like, dude, whatever mistakes I've made, whatever wrong path I chose because my parents wanted me to do it, or this is what was expected. I'm not halfway through career. I'm like 10% of the way through my career.
Right.
It's like
And I can change careers also. I'm not be stuck to one career.
My God, yeah. If you're in your 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s, like if you're taking care of yourself and you may have another 40, 50 years, like you're not even halfway done. You could completely reinvent yourself.
Yep.
And that, even just kind of unplugging people's minds to that, I think is hugely powerful and empowering. I think that's, what it really comes down to. It's like, this is meant to be empowering. It's meant to show you, like, you don't need a huge idea. There are things you could do every day, right? Mentally, physically, what you eat, what you do, that could make you more capable, more positive, more happy, and you could really reinvent yourself. I've done it probably twice. Like, really, if someone said he's like living in Miami and he's working in blockchain, like people would be like, no, like that's not Eric. That doesn't sound like him at all. But just opening your mind to that. And I mean, did you think you were going to be doing this?
Never.
I don't know, 10 years ago?
Never.
No,
I had
never.
a stuttering problem.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
You have 0.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I went through 2 years
That's
of...
amazing.
yeah.
I would never have thought that.
Yeah.
Never.
Speaking publicly was my worst fear.
My God, look at, you got a podcast.
Yeah.
The ability of people to reinvent themselves is incredible.
It really is.
But like, you've got to, it kind of starts from inside you. Can't wait for permission. You got to do it. You got to do the work.
I hear the start of something. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing the start of a program where you're going to lead men.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll come back in here and be like, dude, here's the book. Here's the thing. Yeah.
Let's do it. That'll be great. One last thing. What's one thing that you would tell your 20-year-old self that you know today that could have helped you?
Oh my God. I had this, I'm trying to think. I do not want to get choked up on this podcast, but I did have an experience a few months ago where I went back to UCLA, and I hadn't been back in like a long time, and was remembering my 21-year-old self, what I thought. It like being in the physical environment makes you feel things and remember things you didn't remember.
Brings you back to the moment.
And I'm like, my God, man, I cared so much about what other people thought. I cared so much about what my parents thought. I cared so much about what I thought success would mean, what I thought I should be doing, and all these things, none of which came from me. They all came from the outside.
Right.
And I was like, man, what a fucking pussy. All of that work, and I was jacked, and I was, I looked like Adonis. None of that mattered. Inside, I was a huge pussy, was not doing any of what I really wanted to be doing, was completely following other people's directives and goals and judgments and everything else.
Yeah.
And didn't even enjoy the process, man. It was amazing being there, looking around, going, I didn't enjoy this. Like, I remember being so fixated on grades and extracurriculars and getting into med school or getting in a lot. Like, I literally did not enjoy my undergraduate experience. And same thing in law school. Like, all I did was study. Then I worked during the summer. It's like, it was so future focused, and it was so obsessed with where I was going to be. I didn't enjoy the ride at all. And to go through that and look back and be like, man, you didn't enjoy any of this.
Wow.
Which doesn't mean I should have fucked off and not done anything. And I'm like, no, but
balance.
Balance. I had 0 balance. And I cared way too much about what other people thought. I wish now, if I could have gone back and gone, man, you really wanted, like, you should have just followed your gut and done X, Y, and Z, and probably would have been more fulfilled, avoided being a lot of situations where I felt just drained. And in a lot of what I'm doing now in life is honestly trying to make the kid in me proud. And I think once you get to that point where you're like, it's not about other people. Like, I want to make myself proud.
Yeah.
I want to do what I would be happy doing. And giving yourself permission to do that, I think very few men do. I mean, most of the people that I was in school with were kind of the same. You know, if you ask them why they were doing what they were doing, they're like, well, you know, I mean, it's this or it's med school or law school. And, you know, my parents said this, and, you know, my counselors always said this. And growing up, I always saw this. And, you know, it's like you get conditioned to pursue certain things, not because they're what you really want to pursue. And I think I would tell myself, like, listen to your gut. Like, try to pay more attention to your gut. That's one thing I learned way later in life, man, is I was so cerebral. Everything was so cerebral with me that as I went on through life and I went through a divorce and I, you know, worked with some people that I just never should have worked with. And when I was honest with myself and really started thinking, like, was there any indication when I started this that maybe this wasn't right? Mentally, no. Logically, it was like, no, dude, look, the money's great. No, this firm is really well regarded. In my gut,
You knew.
I knew 100% in my gut. We're trained not to listen to our guts because, like, well, what is that? That's bullshit. Right? Think your way out of it.
Right.
And I was always so kind of trapped in my head that one of the biggest things I've had to force myself to do, and it's an ongoing struggle, is like when my mind thinks something's a good idea, but my gut is saying no, to say no and to actually say no and not do it, even when my mind is like, rationally, you should be doing this, is one of the hardest things I've had to learn how to do. And yet your gut is almost never wrong. There's a book, somebody wrote a book about this. I can't remember the author, but somebody wrote a book in the last, I think it was decade, where they like went back and interviewed people that were kidnapped or women that had been raped and things like that. And they like, was there a time they're like, yeah, I felt this terrible foreboding and I had a taser in my purse, but I thought, oh, it would be so rude. Like, what would this guy think if I pulled the taser out? You know, like people knew, people had most of the time their gut was giving them a big warning sign. And we don't listen to it even when it's danger right in front of us.
We overthink it.
We overthink it.
No.
We get stuck in our heads and we don't just act based on what our gut is telling us. And now more than ever, if if someone wants me to participate in a project, if they want me to represent them, if they could be anything, if my gut's saying no, I'm like, I'm not going to do it. And I know it sounds crazy. My mind is like, you're an idiot. Look at the money, look at the opportunity. It's like, no, this doesn't feel right.
It's not worth it.
Every time that I chased opportunity or money and didn't listen to my gut, it's never worked out. Usually the money doesn't come because something else happens and it was a train wreck to begin with. And same thing happens with relationships. I bet if you went back and talked to someone like a Johnny Depp, was like, did your gut ever tell you that Amber probably was crazy? I bet he'd be honest and be like, yeah, but man, she was hot.
I was going to say, to be honest, the craziness is probably what attracted him to her a little bit.
Sometimes it is. Yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's the craziness, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it's the craziness, right? But that's something you got to unpack yourself too, right? Because like, well, look where that led you. And a lot of men are attracted to crazy. A lot of really smart, capable men are attracted to crazy because of their own programming, their own issues.
It's intoxicating. Crazy is intoxicating.
It can definitely be intoxicating.
Yeah.
But yeah, learning to really listen to your gut is probably one of the best things. And because that also would have informed all the rest of it. I would have gone to doing the stuff that I'm doing and chasing these degrees doesn't even feel right. This doesn't feel right. If I had listened more to my gut early on, I would have been, I think, in a better place. And I think most men would. And I think it saves you from a lot of, a lot of problems down the line.
Real quick,
blockchain. Is it the future of money, or is it the future of documentation, or both?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? I mean, the inherent benefits of the fact that at least with current things like Bitcoin and things like that, the government can't print more of it.
Yeah.
They can't devalue it like that.
Yeah.
But even just the ease, like I've been spending a lot of time internationally lately, and like for me to be in another country and pay rent in blockchain and not be like I never knew how hard it would be to move money from Bank of America to another bank in another country without them asking 20,000
It's
questions.
so hard.
How long it would take.
Yes.
That it might get frozen, even when it's just me to me.
Right.
Literally nothing is going on. And that blockchain's instantaneous and no one can say anything. So like, I do think, and I think in terms of smart contracts, I think that it absolutely should be the future of real estate, car titles. I think there's such a huge potential there, and I think it is going there. I've been advising a company recently that's trying to take all cultural assets. So like imagine if these were, 1 in 20, 2,000-year-old swords. Like there's no real market. You can't lend against it. They're creating kind of the pipes and the structure to be able to do that using blockchain technology.
That's very cool.
I think the days of like meme coins are hopefully probably over.
Yeah.
Like the NFTs, I think what we saw a lot of were gimmicks based on real tech.
Okay.
And the real tech is going to stay 100%.
Got it.
I think Bitcoin will continue going up. I think it's going to hold
You don't think
a
it's
lot
crashing?
of value. No. I mean, it always goes through these ups and downs. But if you look at it from the beginning, it always goes through up and downs, but it always trends up. And again, it's not to commit the fallacy of what happened in the past necessarily happens in the future. But when you look at what's happened with inflation, with printing money and all the rest of it, it's not surprising why something that has like an inherent stability and non-fuckability to it is holding value. And I think a lot of the technology around blockchain, I think is definitely gonna be here. I think we just have to be, in that space, I'm more worried about like central bank digital currencies. Like I'm worried about governments using that technology to have more control over you.
Is that what Trump's doing?
No, I don't think that's what Trump's doing, but I think we're going to see a push for a lot of that. I mean, you see it in some foreign countries. I mean, look, in the UK, you can get arrested for posting something.
Yeah.
What happens when your money is tied to that?
Yeah.
If you post this, we cut your money off. If you say
like in
something
Canada,
we don't like,
during
Canada,
COVID, the truckers.
Australia, Western countries, right? I think I think what always attracted me, I was turned on to Bitcoin by this guy named Brock Pierce, who was an OG in Bitcoin. He was like a Puerto Rico billionaire in the very beginning of when that happened. This is like 2011, 2012. He was coming to me saying, you got to buy Bitcoin. And at the time, there was no Coinbase. There was no, it was weird and funky to buy it.
Yeah.
But from the beginning, the pitch was always a very libertarian pitch. It was like, this is pure value. It exists totally outside the system.
Yeah.
No government can screw with it. No one can print more of it. And I love that. It was like the idea that like, if you believe, you have libertarian tendencies, which I do, which is like, look, if it's the efforts of my labor should be mine, and I should be able to use it wherever, whenever, however I want, and it shouldn't be controlled. And I think particularly coming off of the last decade where you had so much censorship on social media of what people could say in the most Western First Amendment country in the world, that we were seeing that. It's like, man, how could you possibly trust bureaucrats with your money, with your livelihood?
It's true.
With your ability to survive.
Last question. What do you think is that time frame of that shift where blockchain is now a household name, household commodity, is the new way to move money in the world?
Until it has some kind of critical mass. I think we're still in the kind of early adopter stage. I think, I can't remember what the numbers are, but it's like well below 20% of people actually have and use cryptocurrency, right?
Okay, so we're very early.
So we're still early. Yeah. For people that think, oh, it's too late, like, no, it's not too late. Like, not even half of us not even a third of us are using it. And I see this because even when I'm in other countries, or like if I go to buy a car, or if I go to rent, I'll be like, can you ask if they accept crypto, any crypto? Like it can be stable coin. I'm not going to do like USDC,
Right.
something, Bitcoin, something stable. Bitcoin's not as stable, but like USDC, USDT. Would they accept crypto theoretically? 95% of people renting places, people don't.
Yeah.
And it's not because they can't.
wouldn't know
It's
how.
super simple to set up, and it's it's a lot better for them, frankly, than accepting cash, because you don't have problems with the money getting stuck and all the rest of it. Most people just don't use it, and so I mean, think about it. How many people do you know who actually not only have it but use it?
Very few.
Like to invest or to pay rent or
Not
to
many.
do anything, like super small. So I think we're still early, but I think that over the coming, and I think it'll happen faster in third world countries, just like
El Salvador.
internet. Yeah. Just like we saw internet really and cell phones, right? In third world countries that didn't have landline architecture, it's like they leapfrogged. They went straight from like, we don't have phones to we have cell phones.
Correct.
And they adopted it much more quickly. So I
Yeah.
think that in countries where title is confusing or difficult, like third world countries, I think using blockchain for real estate transaction, auto transactions, things like that, and even just money, I think we're going to see a lot more of, and it's going to be a lot more popular. And I think even in the U.S., I don't know, we're probably 5 to 10 years away from it being widespread enough that you don't feel like an early adopter.
Yeah,
You know what I
mainstream.
mean? Yeah, where it starts feeling, even if not everybody's doing it, it's like there was a certain point where almost everyone you knew had a cell phone, even if your parents didn't.
Yeah.
And it was mainstream enough where it was functional and useful. I think we're still, obviously people can make a fortune in crypto. The tech is already there, and there are some people that can do business. But like, for example, like even just paying bills, like there was a company called BitPay that I was using for a while that I would pay, like I would make credit card payments, rent payments using crypto, and it would send fiat. And then probably there was some I never looked into what happened, but as of last Christmas, they just stopped.
Wow.
Probably some regulatory thing or I don't know, something happened. But like the fact that it's that hard still to be like, how do I pay for I want to buy a car. I have X amount of USDT, which is there's a market, it's liquid.
Yeah.
I can sell it today. Why is this so hard? Like, why is it so hard? And there are like niche companies. There's a guy that I know in Miami that will sell you watches and you can pay with crypto. And
Okay.
like, they're niche, but that's going to become much more mainstream. We're already starting to see some of the partnerships, some of the credit cards, things like that. I think it will, over the next 5 years, become way more mainstream where people are going to accept it, and it just becomes a lot easier. I mean, quite honestly, crypto industry didn't do itself any help. First of all, the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world that
Yes.
gave it this cloud of dodginess.
He
did
fucked
not
it.
help.
He really did. Yeah, he made it really
fucked
shady.
up.
Yeah.
But also, just the engineers and the companies themselves. I don't know how to what extent, like even being in crypto, like signing up for a new wallet or figuring out MetaMask was
Yeah.
like. I mean, I'd call my friend up and be like,
It was impossible.
What is
It
happening
really
here?
was,
Like,
yeah.
why is this so unbelievably difficult? Like, this is, you need someone like a Steve Jobs at Apple to be like, here's how you make it stupid simple.
Yes,
like
exactly.
your grandmother could do this,
Right.
We're not at that place yet, right? It needs to be that easy where it's, I mean, look, it's still difficult for my parents to get on a bank website
Right.
and
Oh my God.
transfer something. Or
My
they think
dad is
that-
so difficult.
like even just doing that. So like I could not even imagine. Honestly, I would not even try to explain like, okay, mom, here's how you get crypto. Here's how you transfer. Here's what a wallet looks like. Like it would be like months of training. And we need to get to a point for that mass adoption where even just like the average person in their 40s or 50s who is
Right.
into crypto could do it quickly and in a trustworthy way. Because the other problem with crypto is, like, if my mom goes online and screws up and wires something to the wrong account, there's at least a bank you could call.
Right.
If she goes on and just sends it to the wrong address or to the wrong chain, it's like there's no one to call. It's decentralized. Like, there is no one to help you.
Is XRP leading that charge?
I mean, I think they're trying to. I mean, so Charles Hoskinson, sorry, no, that's Ripple. Cardano was trying to do some things in that space. I think XRP is doing some, they're doing some integrations, and I think they are trying to lead the way. I mean, I think everybody sees that that's the holy grail. If we can make this stupid simple, trustworthy, and start to integrate it into the financial system, there's huge upside, like massive upside. I think a lot of people are trying to do it. I think it'll get more. Look, people that were like 18, 5 years ago when they got into crypto, like in 10 more years when they're actually executives and running companies and are executives at banks,
that's when the
they're
shit's
going to be
happen.
able to start to shift
You're
a
right.
lot more. So I think we're probably 5 or 10 years away from like really get it. But look, the reality is we have like a president and an administration that's super. Look, I don't think that Trump is necessarily super crypto savvy, but he understands what it is.
Yeah.
He understands the potential
He's
of it.
friendly to it,
He's not kind of fearfully anti-crypto. Like, I think that this administration has embraced it in a way that we've never seen. And by the way, so has like Milei in Argentina and Bukele. And, there are more and more leaders that are starting to understand kind of why this is important and why they shouldn't just
They're seeing the tea
reject
leaves.
it or, outlaw it. One of the hardest things that we had, frankly, even under the Biden administration was it wasn't even that they were anti, it was that they wouldn't say or do anything. It was just vague. Unfortunately,
most of his administration felt that way.
Very vague.
Yeah.
And, the problem is how do you build a business on vague? It's like, how do you invest if you don't know if they're going right or left? Like, which way is it going? Are they going to regulate it? Are they not going to regulate it? And despite the fact that we don't have the kind of umbrella regulation that I think everybody would still love to have in crypto, with this administration, you got a sense that they weren't going to go after you for shits and giggles. Like they weren't going to kind of try to gotcha or, yeah, I know it's vague, but we're going to go after you. It kind of felt like, look, if it's not clearly illegal, you can do it. And the really bad offenders, if you're committing fraud, you're still committing fraud. Right. It's not like anything goes if it's crypto. But the difference was like under the prior administration, it was like, even if you weren't committing fraud, even if you were trying to do everything according to the law, the SEC and the regulators were so vague, and they wouldn't give you any guidance, and they would just kind of go after some people, not other people, that you never really knew where you stood, which creates too much uncertainty, and it stifles innovation. And so I think at least we have an administration saying, look, we're generally going to be more free market about this. But if you're committing fraud, you're still going to be like if you're doing bad things,
the rules still apply.
Rules still apply.
Yeah.
And that, I think a lot of people in crypto in the beginning, and even in tech in the beginning, I think we saw that with Napster. People in tech generally sometimes kind of get the impression that they'll say like code is law. It's like, no, law is law. Like you still live in a country with laws, and there are still law enforcement officials, and you're still bound by the laws.
Yeah.
It's not that you're now unplugged from the matrix and you're living in a virtual reality. Like you still, your money, you physically, you still exist in a country of laws, and fraud, theft, things like that still apply. Like, people that are doing bad things in crypto can and should be prosecuted. Like it's not good for crypto. I've said at conferences, like we need to do a better job of policing our own to some extent, because otherwise the general public becomes very skeptical.
They mesh it all together.
Yeah, they become skeptical.
Yeah.
And people naturally, I have like a good friend in LA who's, innovative and entertaining. He's just like totally anti-crypto and then when you ask him, he's like, well, like Sam Bankman-Fried. It's like, the one thing he knows is this guy that defrauded everybody. But, you
had Bernie Madoff also,
Bernie Madoff. Yeah. Because people know a little bit more about finance, they're like, yeah, but he was an outlier. He was a crook. You don't not put your money in banks anymore,
Right.
So the fact that Sam Bankman-Fried did what he did doesn't mean that all of crypto is bad and that none of it's built on real tech. No, that's not true. That there is real valuable tech. A lot of what's happening is very real in the system, but you have some bad actors. And unfortunately, anytime there's, like we saw that with NFTs, we saw with meme coins, there were good actors and bad actors. And in any kind of Wild West environment, you're just going to have people that are not
Take
ethical
advantage. Yeah,
and take
100%.
advantage. And the more that we can try to self-police that, the better. You know,
Man, I could talk to you all day. This has been an incredible conversation.
Next time, what we do, if
Yes.
you've never done this, is we get some cameras outside. We get on our bikes. We put the mics in the helmets.
Done.
Podcast on bikes.
Oh,
Bikes
I
and
would
podcasts.
love that.
Yeah, that would be sick.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Actually,
Let's make
I
it
have
happen.
something. I have something coming.
Tell me.
that you would love.
Tell me.
Do you know the brand Aprilia?
Of course.
Did you see last year that they announced a new? It's called their XGP. Are you familiar with what this is?
I have.
It's a limited run. They're doing 30 of them.
I have an
It's
idea
as-
of what you're talking
It's a
about.
non-street legal track bike.
Wow.
That's as close as you could get to a MotoGP bike.
Wow.
Really expensive. They're only 2 are coming to the U.S. I got one of them.
No fucking way.
When we do the track day, you're gonna come out.
No
You're gonna see this bike. It's not
I'm
even
there.
street legal.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there. Count me in.
It's like one of those peak life experiences.
You're a fellow bald brother,
Fellow hair club for men.
and we have the same shoe with no
I
socks.
know that we didn't plan that.
No, we didn't plan
we didn't
that.
plan that.
No.
It's good. It's just good
It's
taste.
incredible.
Functional and good taste.
Yes.
Yeah.
This has been incredible. We've done just about 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Flown by.
Yeah.
We hit incredible topics.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you
really,
for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
This was
You're an
great.
incredible man.
Thank you, man.
Start that
You as
club for
well.
men. Start that group.
Not the hair club.
No, not the hair club. The Council for Men.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
That'll be awesome.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Let everyone know where they can find you.
Okay. So you can find me online at ericgalen.com, first and last name. And then on Instagram, it's Eric, ERICF. My middle name, if you guess, can anybody guess my middle name? Starts with an F. $100 if you guess it.
Fine.
No, imagine like a movie that came out that would make it terrible to have this name after the 1980s.
Frankenstein?
Forrest.
Okay. That's good.
Eric F. Galen, Galen.
Got it.
That's my Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. You can search for my name. And yeah, if you're working on something interesting, if you think you could use help, message me.
Incredible. Thank you. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Guys, if you're looking for an experienced lawyer, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're someone that's an influencer, someone in the entertainment space, and you're looking for a lawyer to have your back, Eric's the guy. Go follow him.
Thank you.
Go make sure you connect with him. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and we'll see you guys next time.